Okay, this is part two of the interview I did with Rory Lamont. This is a really interesting one because we're going to talk about concussion and brain injury and the transformative effects that ayahuasca, for example, and Iboga have had on transforming Rory's experience of traumatic, severe brain injury, multiple concussions. At the elite, level at rugby, the damage that you take to your head and these tackles is incredible. You can almost feel the hits from the sidelines when you're there. So Rory, was on the kind of front line of that experience, and so we go on to talk about his experience with concussion and brain injury, and we talk about the legal status of psychedelics and and how to integrate the experiences. It's an amazing interview. No, you're gonna love it. To have three, you say it was three ceremonies in total in the retreat in the 10 days. So it just seems extraordinary that something that can have such a profound impact on your life is 10 days out of your life. So it's not it's not months, it's not years, it's non-addictive. So you're not running back there every couple of months going, give me my fix of Iboga. It just seems extraordinary that these things are still, the state mandates against them. It just seems an utterly extraordinary thing. And as that's one of the reasons for the plant medicine movement, is to say, we need to have a kind of a mature and honest conversation about this, rather than say the knee-jerk default judgments. Because in my own experiences, if I say to people that I was living a not to the same kind of elite level that you are, but I was living a kind of I am living a successful life. On the face of it, I have everything a human could want, in one of the richest countries in the richest periods of history. I'm one of the luckiest people, right? But I felt a deep sense of unease, that things were, that I was operating almost on autopilot. That my life, I was traveling around the world and spending time in amazing places, but it was kind of meaningless to me. But sitting down in front of a very experienced and beautiful shaman in Peru, I was able to reconnect with the whole kind of enterprise, the whole point of reconnect with my family, reconnect with my children, start to kind of enjoy things again, and really have those beautiful moments that they just weren't there before, that I'd been cut off from. That I'd go out with my children, but I'd feel kind of distracted, and I'd feel not distant from them, but I didn't have that same level of connection. But sitting down, drinking ayahuasca in Peru, and sitting opposite the shaman who sings the Icaro to you in the dark. So it's a difficult one to explain. I've got someone, I'm drinking this kind of quite bitter. I don't like it. I don't like ayahuasca. I don't like the taste of it. But
one of the worst tasting things there is, right?
It's awful.
It gets worse. It tastes worse the more you drink it. I think the more ceremonies you do, the worse it tastes.
For sure. But what was being sung to me in those moments in the dark was this message from wherever, from, like you say, from a dimension beyond this one, which said you have unconditional love and support. You have it. It's yours. Remember that. And it was just that was what was being sung to me in the dark, and repeated and repeated and repeated again. And you knew it, and you felt it. And I think another thing that's really important is the integration of these experiences. And that's another thing we're really going to be working hard on. And at Thank You Plant Medicine is to try but to create the opportunity for a more kind of rounded process. So because it can be that people have the experiences and then are left a little bit on their own. That can happen. Trying to integrate something truly profound and life-changing, but then going back to work on Monday morning, or going back into the same sort of situations and being slightly, finding it harder to kind of integrate and to get the most benefit out of the process. So in terms of your own integration, how did that work? Did you largely integrate yourself? How did you, after you've done the sort of Costa Rica 10 days, 3 ceremonies, profound experience and change in your life, how were you able to sustain that? Did you have any kind of wobbles when you got back? Was it difficult, or how did that play out?
Yeah. I mean, by no means was life plain sailing after connecting with Iboga. I still had a lot of difficulties to deal with. You know, while I'd been shown the path forward and I knew how to conduct my life, I still had big challenges. I still was struggling with my ankle, unable to walk, and still had all my digestive issues. And although Iboga did give temporary relief to the digestive problems, slight relief, and I still had all, I still had all the home environment, and just all the challenges were still there within my relationships with people, with my partner, and so yeah, the integration was difficult, to be honest, because first of all, I was very inexperienced on, I didn't understand the importance of integration. I didn't know how you go about integrating these kinds of experiences. I was trying to tell anyone who'd listen about it, and of course you're quite often met with a lot of skepticism and resistance, and that can cause a little bit of frustration in you as well. You're trying to tell people about this incredible medicine that does deep healing, and so yeah, it wasn't easy. January 2015, had my very first ayahuasca ceremony. So it wasn't long after Iboga that I, pretty much immediately connected with ayahuasca, and just again, that was another incredibly profound healing experience that gave me huge relief in my physical symptoms that I was dealing with, my health, symptoms of my digestive system, and again, I was still in really bad health, really weak, and dozens of different symptoms. And ayahuasca, immediately after ayahuasca, there was a huge drop in the symptoms and a big improvement in my digestion. And so I became very intrigued with ayahuasca, and connected with my journey with that medicine began. So I was still, I guess, integrating. It's a really transformational experience because it was still very difficult to integrate the experience from Iboga, but of course I've moved into working with another medicine and getting lots and lots of insights and understandings and healings. And I went through a period of just working a lot with the medicines and probably not allowing myself the integration time. But that was because, I maybe didn't have the experience of the importance of learning how to integrate it, which, whereas now I fully understand that we need time to digest these experiences, to implement what we've learned. We have to dedicate our time to implementing what we've learned into our daily life. So yeah, it's been a difficult one.
Something you said earlier as well about the frustration you felt in one of the Iboga ceremonies, which was like, everyone else talks about these amazing kind of, psychedelic experiences. And I've had a similar experience with ayahuasca, where a lot of the time when I've drunk ayahuasca, I've had absolutely no psychedelic experiences. And the healing's been at a much more kind of bodily and much more profound level, somatic, I think the word is. And I've been a bit frustrated as well, but the kind of lurid trip reports, people having these kind of, intergalactic traveling experiences, and I'm just kind of sitting there going, well, I feel a bit hot, feel a bit queasy, and I feel a bit hot. But the way the physiological effect that ayahuasca's had for me has been the really interesting one. I was suffering from I was potentially needing to have a hip replacement, but ayahuasca fixed that. I mean, that's the kind of the strange levels that these medicines are kind of working on. Things that I went in a way hoping for the intergalactic space travel and meeting entities and higher selves and whatnot, but I just got a fixed hip. So I could, which one would you rather have? So in your experiences of ayahuasca, have you had the kind of mystical kind of experience of ayahuasca, or has it been more kind of physical on the purging side, or how's that tended to work for you?
So, I mean, I've pretty much had the full range of experiences with ayahuasca. Ayahuasca. While I haven't worked with Iboga since 2014, those three ceremonies, but ayahuasca has been a mainstay in my life since January 2015, and so I've worked with medicine a lot now. In the last few years, I've been working with some Shipibo healers. So the contrast in experience between working with the Colombian shamans and the way they work with ayahuasca in Colombia to the way the Shipibo work with the medicine, it's very kind of different experience. I find with the Shipibo, it's almost like you're in a plant hospital and you're going in for an operation. In terms of they come with the Icaros, and there's some really powerful healing where they're doing energetic work on you, and they're literally pulling out childhood traumas, and it feels very much like energetic surgeries happening.
Yeah.
But I've also had the experiences where there's experience of oneness with the universe, and I guess the more traditional mystical. Having said that, I don't get, I'm not one of these visual individuals. I think, there's about 20% of the population who don't have strong visual experiences with these psychedelic medicines. While things do change for me, I'm never in a really long gone into another dimension. I had a little bit of that in Iboga, but predominantly I'm very much in the here and now, but I'm getting insights, like intuitive awareness about my own life. And it feels like connection to my highest awareness, where I can understand what's happening in my life in a more whole manner. So I get to recontextualize the problems that I'm facing and see them in a new light. And so really that's where these, the experience for me, I'm kind of glad I don't get, sometimes really disappointed. I'd love to have these like incredible psychedelic experiences where they're having, they're in a different dimension. But like, part of me is glad, because I feel like, my process when I work with the medicines, it's very clear. I'm not being distracted by any complex visions. It's just intuitive feeling, me and my mind and my connection to life, and getting to really analyze myself and the way I conduct myself.
Yeah, that's what I think makes this such a brilliant case study, because I think what puts people off a lot of the time is the lurid trip report, is the thought that they're going to be so kind of completely out of their minds and out of control, and that really frightens people, and for good reason. So I think that's, as I say, that's what makes this a really great case study. So in terms of maybe your old kind of buddies in the rugby fraternity, or women obviously as well, sorry, or people kind of maybe more in the mainstream, in terms of building that sort of pathway from I'm sitting and I'm struggling, right? Because as we discussed earlier, a lot of people are struggling right now, right? So being able to say, look, this is a pathway which is open to you. It might be a little bit more expensive because you have to, for the legality issues, you have to go kind of maybe a bit farther away, to get the healing. But in terms of saying, what would you say to someone, say, an old rugby buddy or whatever, or someone who was maybe thinking about it, how would you say to build a kind of a smooth pathway and sort of reassure them that it's something that can be done, and it's not something that's super dangerous, or do you know what I mean? How would you, what kind of recommendations would you give to people?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the very first thing I do is explain to them my own journey, and the plant medicines have saved my life, and in my opinion, it's important to find a when working with these medicines, you want to find people who have a lot of experience with providing this medicine, whether it's a shaman or just a provider, a retreat facilitator, who's got a lot of experience and who has, maybe there's other people who've given testimonials to the ethics of this person or this retreat center. So because you always want to vet, the place or the people that you may be going to be working with, because not everyone is honest and not everyone holds himself in in an integral manner, and there are lots of charlatans out there trying to profit from these medicines. So we do have to use our critical mind to discern what places and people are going to serve the medicine in a very safe and respectful manner. So, but the UK is a problem because these medicines are out of reach because of legal status. So, and that can be a really challenging thought for people, because of the legal status. They feel like they might be doing something morally incorrect. So that there's that kind of battle. But ultimately, there's other countries, other places where these medicines are legal, or at the very least they're not criminalized. And there's really reputable retreats that have a lot of experience, a lot of people who can testify that they serve the medicine in a beautiful, respectful, and safe manner. Doing your due diligence and doing your research and vetting, wherever it is you're looking to go, you have to put the time and thought into what you're doing.
And how do you feel now? I mean, from where you were before, how do you feel sort of today in 2020?
Yeah, how do I feel now? Well, it's been a remarkable journey. So 2013, my health collapsed. So we're talking 7 years. And my life has been transformed. My life is far more meaningful, far more beautiful than it's ever been before. And the beauty is continuing to grow consistently. That doesn't mean that I don't face challenges. Challenges come in life constantly. That is something that is part of the life experience. So there's no doubt difficulties arise, and there's still parts of me that I need to heal. There's still a lot of healing to be done. The depth of our pain and suffering is, it goes deep, and it's intergenerational as well. We inherit a lot of our pain and wounds from our parents and grandparents, and so it takes time. But with every effort that I've made to bring a bit more healing to my life or to my being, my life has become more beautiful. It's like there's a weight is lifted from my mind or from my shoulders, and my ability to feel beauty, my ability to have gratitude for what I have, is just ever increasing. So my life now is like really beautiful, and I feel like I've also got the understanding on how to navigate the challenges that come in. So instead of recoiling from them and treating them like the enemy, I welcome whatever challenges are coming in and understand that this challenge is going to open me up in new ways and help me grow. And so because of that, because I've changed the way I approach the challenges in my life has become much more peaceful, much more beautiful. My physical health has transformed. This year I've reached a new level of health, which I've had to work really hard to get back. But coming back from like the long-term effects of post-concussion syndrome, all the brain trauma, all the pharmaceutical drugs, learning how to cleanse the body, how to detoxify the body, Yeah, I'm in a really, really beautiful space now. Just like my peace and happiness is, yeah, I'm very content with my position in life and yeah, just the here and now.
Well, that's definitely going to be one of the major clips that we're going to take out of this. Interestingly, rugby's been in the news in the last couple of days, right? With the whole kind of court action that's going to take place because of people with kind of long-term sort of concussive injury issues. So would you see there's definitely a value in sort of really doing some proper research into how these medicines can help people from your old game?
Yeah, at the moment, so there's a lot of ex-players who are dealing with the long-term effects of post-concussion syndrome, and even more serious, the chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, which is early onset dementia, which a lot of sportsmen who have taken so much brain trauma, so many concussions, are experiencing. Guys I played against, so they're 40 years old and they've got early onset dementia. So there's a serious problem going on, and at the moment, mainstream medicine doesn't think that there's any way to heal these conditions, and that when you're in this position and you're dealing with like the effects of brain injury, we're kind of just told to rest and pray that you just heal, which often doesn't do the job. So with my experience with the plant medicines, psilocybin mushrooms, ayahuasca, Iboga, and although it's not a plant medicine, Kambo, obviously it's a Amazonian indigenous medicine. I really believe these medicines help cleanse the body, remove the toxicity that is really affecting our health. Because ultimately, I believe that it's not just the brain trauma that is the problem, it's brain trauma plus toxins in the body, particularly heavy metals, and pharmaceutical drugs. These things effectively poison the body, and they poison the liver. And so these plant medicines, I really feel they cause, well, we know that psilocybin mushrooms cause neurogenesis. I'm not so sure about the effects of ayahuasca and iboga, but I suspect they do the same, and I suspect Kambo does. This is why we need to like research these medicines, because my own experience is that these medicines absolutely can heal these injuries to the brain and injuries to the body. It's not just emotional healing, but there's physical healing as well to be had.
It's amazing. They just, I think they just agreed that they would be able to reschedule DMT for a study. The Imperial College study into psilocybin. I think they're going to expand it into DMT. So that was just in the last couple of days. And there's obviously, the science is kind of gathering momentum sort of globally. So, the anecdotal and sort of individual evidence is so strong. Hopefully we should see some breakthroughs in the not too distant future. Potentially some really important research and work can be done, for the kind of head injury sort of, rugby community. And that's huge, and that's current right now. In terms of, your kind of short and medium term sort of, what's your view on where things go in the kind of short to medium term? I mean, are you close to the sort of decriminalization movement, which is gathering sort of momentum in the US? I mean, is that something that you think could start to gather momentum here? Is that something you're working towards? What's your kind of current viewpoint?
I fully endorse the idea of them being decriminalized. I think it's a crime against humanity that these healing medicines are out of reach for so many people. We, just within my own rugby community, I know so many ex-players who are struggling with life, struggling with depression, struggling with injuries, post-career, and, just struggling to integrate the loss of, that their rugby life, on an emotional level, and just dealing with the physical effects. And so I think it's really important that we let the science speak for these medicines. And so in the UK, I hope that we can let sense prevail and decriminalize these substances, so we can do much more sort of scientific research into them. And then, if the results prove positive, then we can start implementing them in a careful, safe manner, and start, helping people with like depression, suicidal ideation, autoimmune conditions, brain injuries, because all these conditions have been, there's so many testimonies of people healing these different conditions with different plant medicines.
And in your conversations you've had with maybe kind of ex-colleagues, I mean, how is that? What's the kind of response have you had generally?
Yes, interesting. There's a lot of curiosity and intrigue. I mean, there's, because of the legal status, it always puts a lot of apprehension in people's mind. But I know of a handful of other players who have also worked with ayahuasca, and I know there's other current professional rugby players that have worked or are working with Kambo. So yeah, it's I mean, it's difficult to feel, but I definitely feel that I probably think athletes are more open to it than the rest of the population. But that's just what I've kind of intuitively felt. But yeah, it's difficult to say, because people are always so worried about being seen to speak about these things. But times are changing.
I think that's an amazing interview. Again, concussions, brain injuries, a really big topic of discussion at the moment. With footballers, American football players, boxers. I mean, there's so many, kind of elite level sports people and amateur level sports people that are experiencing issues with, head injury and brain trauma. And it's an amazing kind of area of potential sort of inquiry to see what these medicines can do, to fix that. So that's the end of part 2. There's part 3 to come. Again, really, really amazing sort of interview in and of itself. But please subscribe, like, do all the things we need to do on social media to kind of really share this and get the message out there. That plant medicines are really, have a really important part to play in kind of all areas of health. Thanks for watching. Take care.